Hi there, this is Ranjit, and in this video we'll be doing the full review for the Samsung Galaxy A50. And I had actually unboxed this about 2.5 weeks ago, and I have been actually testing this device for the last 7 days with my primary SIM, that is Airtel. So I'll give you my opinion, what I feel about this device now, and I'll divide it between the pros and the cons so that you can make an informed decision if this is the right smartphone for you. But before that, here are the specs for the Samsung Galaxy A50, and as you can see, it's having that 6.4-inch Super AMOLED screen, and it comes with the new Exynos 9610 octa-core processor, and it comes in 4 or 6 GB of RAM and 64 GB of storage, and other specs are on the screen for your reference. So let's quickly break it down between the pros and cons. First, I'll talk about what I like about this device, and then we'll move to the cons. And the first thing I liked about this device is that 6.4-inch that is an AMOLED screen. That's a full HD plus screen, and it's a very good quality screen that we are getting. And I also like the fact that they went with this drop down notch, not that punch hole notch that we are seeing in the higher end devices, because I feel this is a lot subtle and you don't notice it that much. And also I like the fact that the auto brightness calibration has been done very well on this phone. During the last 7 days, I hardly had to actually go manually and adjust the brightness. So that is done very well. Now moving to another thing is that many of you might be asking, what is this Exynos 9610? It's basically an octa-core processor, and actually I also ran Antutu on this one, and as you can see, we got an Antutu score of about 1,45,000. so that falls around the Snapdragon 660 in terms of performance. And when we talk about the general performance, I didn't face any issues of lagginess or anything like that on this device. And by the way guys, I'm using the 4 GB RAM variant, not the 6 GB RAM variant. And coming to the pricing, the 4 GB RAM variant comes for 20,000, and I believe the 6 GB is about 23,000. And but sadly, both of them just come with 64 GB of storage. But I like the fact that we do have a dedicated slot for a micro SD card. So again, you can expand the storage via the SD card. Now, as I was talking about the performance of the phone, in general day-to-day usage, I didn't face any issues with this one or any lagginess that I noticed with this phone. So the Exynos processor handles it fine. I didn't have any issues. Also, while I was using the phone, I even used it outdoors and stuff. I didn't face any issues of any overheating or something like that. So in that aspect, I didn't have a problem, or what do you say, lagginess. I didn't, and I like the fact this comes out of the box with Android 9 and the new One UI, so you don't have to worry about it. And One UI is the new user interface that Samsung is using, and it's a lot more cleaner and modern in my opinion. Now moving to the cellular reception, also here I'm happy to say that the cellular network reception on this phone is actually really good. Even with Airtel in this room, where generally I have pretty low signal, I was able to take most of the calls. Yes, sometimes it dipped down, but it never disconnected the calls in this room. So the network reception is actually good on this phone. And I also tested it with Jio on the VoLTE connection, and it works. Now moving to the speaker, it just has a single speaker here at the bottom. And for a single speaker, actually, it's pretty loud. But what I've noticed is that if you keep it at the maximum loudness, highest, it starts to distort a little bit. But if you go one notch down, it's good enough. Another thing that I really liked about this phone is how it feels in your hand. Though it's having that big 6.4-inch screen, the handset weight distribution has been done excellent, and it simply does not feel that heavy, even though it has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. So in that aspect, I would say Samsung has done a very good job in terms of weight distribution. You hardly feel that the device is this big when you hold it. In fact, when I first held it, I was surprised how well balanced it was. Now moving to another thing that I liked about this phone is the battery life that I was getting. Yes, it has that 4,000 milliamp hour battery, and the good thing is that it does support fast charging, and you do get a fast charger in the box. In terms of fast charging, I would say up to about 50%. It charges about 1% per minute, but after that it slows down a little bit, but nevertheless it does have fast charging. And in terms of battery life, I was actually pleasantly surprised with this phone, because earlier I I was actually testing the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, and in that one, though it's a Samsung's flagship with the new processor, the battery life was sort of average. But on this one, the battery life is actually really good, and for most users, it will give you about 1.5 to almost 2 days of battery life per charge. As you can see from the charts, see the standby time that I was getting, almost close to about 2 days, and then also screen on time of about 6 hours, 5.5 hours. So easily for a typical day, if you're using, even if you're sort of a heavy user, expect about 6 to 7 hours of screen on time. And for most users, I would say easily lasts for about 1.5 days. And I did test it heavily also only on mobile data and even GPS and stuff. Then also the battery life was actually really good. So in terms of battery life, I don't have an issue with this phone. But again, as this does not have that always, physical LED notification light, I started to use this one with this always on display. And what I've noticed is that if you switch on this always on display, then the screen on time falls by about 45 to about 50 minutes. So instead of that 7-ish hours of screen on time, you might get about 6-ish hours of screen on time if you enable this one. But I feel you have to do it because it does not have the physical LED notification light. But nevertheless, I would say in terms of battery life, I was happy with this phone. In fact, it exceeded my expectations. Now moving to the fingerprint scanner, as you notice on the back, we don't have anything. This one actually has that in-display fingerprint scanner. And if you just tap it, it shows you where to click. And if you hold it, you have to actually hold it for a second. As you can see, it unlocks, but it works most of the time. And as you can see, but again, it is not the fastest. You have to actually hold this one for about a second. If you just remove it quickly, for example, I'm going to do it, it won't work. I'm just going to tap it. I know it's over here, and if I just, yeah, it worked here, but again, you have to hold it for half a second. Otherwise, as you can see, it'll say to click. So the in-display fingerprint scanner works, but again, it is not as fast as the ultrasonic fingerprint scanner found on the Galaxy S10 Plus, and almost about half a second to 1 second you actually have to hold this. If you leave it, you'll get this warning. Yes, initially if you get this phone, you might not be used to it, so it will bug you for the first 2-3 days. Now I've sort of gotten used to this one, and as you can see, it works most of the time. But yes, it does take a second to unlock. Now moving to gaming, I didn't do a lot of gaming, but I did test this with PUBG, and it ran PUBG fine. Now let's move to the camera, because I feel this is also a very important aspect of this phone, because the camera module that Samsung have put on this one is actually pretty good. In fact, it has 25 megapixel main cameras, both for the front and the rear. In fact, let's talk about the rear facing camera first. The main camera is a 25 megapixel, but with a f1.7 aperture. That means it can gather in a lot of light. The second lens is actually a wide angle lens, that's an 8 megapixel shooter, and the third lens on the rear facing is actually a 5 megapixel that is used for depth. And here are some of the random sample shots that I have taken with this Galaxy A50. These are in outdoor conditions, and as you can see, you get very good clarity in the pictures. And I also really like the fact that the wide angle lens, as you can see, gives a very different perspective to your pictures. And I really like the pictures that I was getting in outdoor conditions with this one. It also has the depth effect, and it works most of the time, but sometimes, yes, I noticed that the depth effect could have been better. Hopefully they can improve it with software updates. And I was also pleasantly surprised, yes, in outdoor conditions, outdoor natural lighting, the camera definitely did a very good job. But when even we moved to indoor lighting conditions, artificial lighting in my office, and I also simulated the low lighting conditions, here also the camera actually performed really well. So the rear facing camera performance is really good. Now some of the samples taken with the front facing camera, and here also I feel the 25 megapixel front facing camera was actually doing a pretty good job. And moving to video, here are some of the samples that I have shot with this one. Shooting this video with the Samsung Galaxy A50's rear facing camera, and actually the highest setting is 1080p, guys, not 4K. And as you can see, I'm just walking around, guys. They don't claim something like electronic image stabilization, but definitely it is doing that. As you can see, I'm just walking around, and then also the video is stable. One thing to note is that this has that wide angle lens, but in the video, yes, pinch to zoom is there, but it's not directly jumping to that wide angle lens like on the more high-end phones like the S10, etc., where we had a button to switch within the video to this wide angle lens. We can switch to the wide angle lens, but you have to switch it before the video. And let me do one thing. This is the regular lens. Let me switch to the wide angle lens, and give you an idea how it looks. So guys, again similar settings, but what I have done is before switching on the video, I switched to this wide angle lens, and as you can see now we are shooting with the wide angle lens. So yes, you can definitely shoot video with the wide angle lens, but you have to actually switch to the wide angle lens before shooting the video, which I feel is pretty silly. They should have just provided a button to toggle between the regular and the wide angle lens. Recording this video with the front facing camera of this Galaxy A50, and as you can see guys, I'm just walking around. They don't claim to have any electronic image stabilization or anything like that, but this is the footage and this is the audio being recorded with the Galaxy A50's front facing camera. I just came in the sun. Earlier I was in the shadowed area, so this should give you an idea. So those were the good things that I liked about the Samsung Galaxy A50. Now let's move to the cons. And the first con that I've noticed, and this is sort of weird, is that yes, it has dual band Wi-Fi. That means 2.4 gigahertz band as well as the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi band. But what I've noticed is that 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi band reception, at least on this unit, is slightly on the weaker side. Most of the phones in this area in my room show the 5 gigahertz network band, but this was actually not showing. If I only moved outside this room, in the same room where the router is, then only it detects the 5 gigahertz band. Maybe my unit is having a problem, but this is what I've noticed. But no issues on the regular 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi band. That was good, and even in speed tests I got decent results that you should get for about 2.4 gigahertz band. Again, as I've told you, no physical LED notification light, so you might have to enable this always on screen, and yes, that will reduce your screen on time by about 45 to 50 minutes. Also, this might be a deal breaker or not, I don't know, because I checked online and none of the reviewers have mentioned about this. So maybe it's an issue with my unit. But what I have noticed is that, and this happened a lot before the first OT update I got, whenever I was using the phone like this normally and doing my stuff, whenever I used to get a phone call, it just pops up over here to take the call. But many times when I was trying to do that, take the call, the screen used to freeze and the call used to get disconnected. Fortunately, we got an OT update and it fixed it almost about 80% of the time. But still, sometimes I've used it for 7 days, as I've told you, and I must have got more than 100 calls. But even after that OT update, that I've got in the last 3 days, 3 times again, when I was just using the phone and I got a got a call, the screen actually just froze, and only when and I couldn't take the call. If you even tap the green button to take the call was not coming, and only when the other person disconnected the call, the phone went normal. So this is a very peculiar bug that I have noticed. But again, I haven't noticed any other reviewer talking about this. So again, it might be just my unit as that might be a little bit buggy, but I did notice this one. And hopefully if this is a bug, then Samsung should, roll out OT update and fix it. And lastly is that many of you have asked, does it have NFC? No, it does not have NFC on this one. And also, this A50 series used to be premium, and most of the A series earlier used to have a glass back, but this one, as you can see, it does not have a glass back. It's sort of a polycarbonate, and it gives this very shiny look when you reflect light over it. It's definitely not glass, and it doesn't feel like cheap plastic, but it is a polycarbonate thing. So some of you might like it or not, but definitely it's not a glass. And also, this is another con that I've noticed. I haven't enabled my Samsung account on this, but as this is a Samsung smartphone, you have an option of enabling a Samsung account. And if you want to use Samsung Pay Mini and some of the other services, you have to do that. But what I have noticed is, even on the Galaxy S10 Plus, if you enable the Samsung account, then there is an app called My Galaxy app that gets auto-enabled, and that actually starts sending news notification, unnecessary notifications in your notification bar. You can fix it by actually disabling that My Galaxy app, but this is something to note. If you enable it, I feel that is sort of an adware. So I haven't enabled my Samsung account, so I'm not getting it. But if you're buying a Samsung phone and you want to use all the services like S Health, Samsung Pay Mini and stuff, you might have to do that. But if you're doing that, disable the My Galaxy app. And also, when you're doing the setup, it asks you for wallpaper stories disable that, because many users have said that this happens even on the Galaxy M20, M30, that you'll see random wallpapers whenever you just open it up, and some of them actually look like ads. So again, be wary of that. So overall, I would say this is actually pretty good Android phone. If you're particular about having a mid-range phone with the Samsung branding, you want them service and support, then you can go for that. But again, if you start comparing it with many of the Chinese counterparts, then I would definitely say that yes, you are still paying a premium of about 15 to 20%, but nevertheless it's actually a pretty good phone. Just that hanging bug that I've noticed when I was getting the call is that thing that is worrying, but hopefully if I get one more update on this phone and that gets fixed completely, I'll let you guys know. Anyways guys, that was my review of the Samsung Galaxy A50. If you guys are still not subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. This is Ranjit and I hope to see you in my next video. Take care guys.